second ago, we're still waiting to go live on all different platforms. So if you're listening to, we'll get started momentarily here, just waiting to all the platforms to sync up before we start today's episode. Okay, so we're live everywhere, so we'll go ahead and get started today. Welcome back to Coach Connect. Here we explore the stories and strategies of insights from trailblazers who are transforming the world of coaching and well-being. What drives their success? What fuels their passions for helping others? We're here to uncover the secrets and share them with you. This show is brought to you by Vibely.io, the all-in-one coaching platform designed to empower coaches with tools and resources and support they need to thrive and help their clients achieve meaningful, long-lasting growth. I'm Dr. Diego Salinas, your guide on this journey. As a neuroscientist, physician, and health coach, and co-founder of Vibely, I'm committed to celebrating the incredible work of coaches everywhere and helping them unlock their full potential. So together, let's dive deep into what makes coaching a powerful force of change. Today's guest, Marinda van Harskamp, hope I said it correctly, is a financial transformation consultant, leadership coach, health and wellness coach, and associate trainer at Coaching School Amsterdam. She gained corporate and international experience in the field of global senior management, digitalization of finance and business processes, and leadership coaching, shared service centers, and leaders process organizations at IKEA's international headquarters. She's an MBA and CMA certified accounting and finance professional, certified supervisory board member, ICF Professional Certified Coach, PCC, as well as a nationally board health and wellness coach. Marinda is a speaker and author of the book, Accounting Architecture Model and Digital Finance, leading the digitalization of finance. Marinda, welcome to today's episode, and sorry for butchering your name. Please let the audience know how to correctly say it.
Yeah, so it's a Dutch name, so it's okay to. It's Marinda van Harskamp.
Van Harskamp. I practiced
Harskamp.
beforehand, everyone, but I still got it wrong.
No, but the
Very
Dutch names are that's with the different nationalities and languages. But Marinda is fine, or Marinda,
Marinda,
how you
pleasure
want
to
to
have
say.
you on the
Yeah,
podcast today. We
thanks.
really want to explore all parts of well-being. But before we dive into what you do, always curious to hear about our guest's backstory, right? How they found coaching, kind of what got them interested in this, and how they started doing this incredible work.
Yeah, wow. And thanks for the introduction. And it says all over, right? I'm finance. I'm an accounting background, so that's where I started. I always had interest in finance somehow. And I think it was 2009-ish, around that one, when I was working for IKEA in the international head office. I had some personal or private challenges. When I was young, my parents divorced, and then in 2007, my mom passed away. Was only 57, and I think that rocked my world. I had a internal training at IKEA where it was my conscious leadership, and for me it was like, oh, leading others. Yeah, I can do that. I can tell others what to do. But I forgot about my own crises at home at that time, and that's where I hit the wall. And then I thought, like, this is such a difficult thing, such a grief that I have, that I cannot do this all alone. And that was actually the first time that I reached out at IKEA also. Like, I need somebody. While I'm raised, and I think a lot of people recognize, I'm raised like, you don't sit down, you don't sit in a corner crying, keep on moving, just move, just continue. And I couldn't. I really felt like I need somebody. And then I had the opportunity to have a coach myself. And from there it started, because then I wanted to do NLP, the neuro linguistic programming. And that was my first step into self-awareness. Actually, as a financial, you're raised like, I know it all and the others don't know. So I was really like, oh, people think differently than me. And actually there I found out I am much more sensitive. I'm much more kinesthetic, much more on my intuition than really rational, which of course is interesting when you work in finance. So that's where it started. And then I could do all kind of trainings. I could do Myers-Briggs type indicator. I've done all the trainings on NLP, master practitioner, team coaching. And then they had an internal training, IKEA, they chose for ICF. And I could train, I could be part of that internal training. Never heard about ICF at that moment. So that's how I got into it. And the story, yeah, continues from there, bringing finance and coaching together. I always say I want to bring the human side to finance, and the financial side to the human, or to coaching in this case. So that's where I am now. Yeah.
Yeah, Marinda, yeah, it's a thanks for sharing your personal story. It sounds like you had a lot of roles in a lot of different professions. We're kind of wanting to present this figure, or this the company culture sometimes
Mm,
of know what to do. We're the experts there, and sometimes in something like inadvertently we can almost either lose our humanity or kind of not be aware of it, right? Because we're
yeah.
focused so much on this what we should be, what we're doing. And it sounds like through this process you realize you needed more support, and really was a step inward to realize that you're much more than just what you should be. I mean, I'm assuming taking your that awareness actually into your work makes you more efficient and better to connect and collaborate in a way that you wouldn't be able to if you kind of were this more, I don't say robotic, but kind of cookie cutter kind
Yeah.
of ideal employee.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I think looking at accounting and finance, people always think it's rational, but I always had my challenge was, and I could never really understand it or could place it, like I did, and I still do accounting on feelings. For me, something, it's so logic, it's debit or credit, so it's in balance, and I can feel directly when something is not in balance.
Mm,
But I could never explain then with argumentation why. But I was like, there's something not correct, there's something not in balance. And if you hear me saying, and now when I say it myself, it's also internal as a person, right? If you have a higher self-awareness, you sense like there's something not in balance in my body, or something is, my shoulder is heavy, or something else. But that was for me very interesting until the moment that I really stepped, what you say, to do my inner work and to start to understand myself.
mm,
Like, yeah, I am not the one that can really explain things rationally, although I am very logical thinker, so it needs to be logical, otherwise I'm disconnected. But this, that it's not an emotion, but that sensing thing, to understand it by heart, more or less.
hmm
That is a completely different approach. And then I started to understand, like, yeah, it might be different, but then when you start to look, there's so many people in finance who do a lot on their intuition also. So it's where things comes together. Indeed, what you say, it's the inner work, inner work. We are all humans,
yeah.
and yes, finance is blue, but we're still humans.
Yeah, yeah. It's instead of this kind of people sometimes want to really segment things out, whether with
Mm,
well-being or finance, right? It's either
yeah,
rational or logical. And
yeah.
my mom says we're emotional beings who can reason.
Yeah, that's true.
Right,
Yeah.
and so I think even how we define emotions, and this could maybe be also cultural too. We're
Mm.
coming from different parts of the world. um, I have people say, well, I'm very logical, and I want to be the top 1%. My goal is I go, it's not very logical. You 1%. If you're looking at logic, you're probably, if you're a betting person,
Yeah,
in the
take
bigger
the bigger part.
cohort. And something like their ambitions maybe for fine. Maybe someone has, successful all stuff. Those drives
Yeah,
might actually be driven by emotions,
true.
right? Our
Yeah.
ambitions are emotional driven, I'd say always logical driven. So it's something I think sometimes people underplay how important our emotions or logic are to drive even finance. Look at consumer finance. We
Yeah,
we
true.
purchase based off emotions, not always logic.
No, I think a lot is because now with big data in finance, right? It's everything is then should be rationalized and analyzed. But I still think our gut feeling is best.
Let's see.
Hmm.
Sorry for that little technical glitch. Part of going live. I don't know what happened, Marinda. Are you able to hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you
Okay, so sorry
definitely.
about that for everyone. I missed what you said. My thing just shut down for a second. Could you repeat what you were speaking? Sorry for everyone in the audience. What
Yeah,
happened?
so it's we had the discussion about the gut feeling, right? In finance that we need to rationalize, and there I can see that we do business based on our gut feelings, and we are very good in it. And now with big data, we try to rationalize everything, and I still believe that it should not be the numbers that lead. The numbers should support our stomach feeling, but I still think our intuition is best. You
Mm,
know, that's what they always say: follow your heart, because that one is always right. So it's bringing that coming together. And what also with the robots, what you say, I think our world is very rationalized, right? Everything that you can prove with science that exists. Well, if I try to understand, which I really cannot understand, something like quantum physics, which I think is enormously interesting, you know, we don't understand it, and we are annoyed by it that we cannot, you know. I've done
yeah,
system work where, you know, the system, how does that work? We don't know, we cannot prove it, but it works. So all these kind of things, quantum physics, miles from each other, you know, we are connected. You're in US, I'm in Europe, in the Netherlands, and we are connected. I think that's
yeah.
such a, but anyway, I wonder a little bit, wander off here, but
No,
that's
I get what you're saying. That even, I mean, even now, as me, entrepreneurs starting business, and I took an MBA program. Right, a lot of it is
mm,
there's reasoning, but you have to use your intuition or your emotions
yeah,
to be like, what's the next step forward? Right, it's not a blueprint for what to do for the future. Right, you have to be creative and listen and introspective and that collaborative part too. What you're saying about kind of quantum physics reminds me. Sometimes in science we know the results are, but not why it works.
yeah,
There's a lot,
we
right? So
really
we
don't get it,
know,
huh?
right? So for example, I always say, um, long before we knew why cyanide was poisonous, people knew it was poisonous. Now we know why it's poisonous, but before,
Yeah,
we still knew it was effective, right? So I think there's so much here we know, even in coaching behavior change, right? Even
yeah,
how the brain works. We'll know what happens, though how it's happening. We're taking educated guesses on and trying to explore further. And it's interesting sometimes understanding that even if we don't know exactly what's happening in this black box of this brain,
mm,
the output still is very clear. And so, how can we look at the output and try to guess what's happening internally? There's a lot more intuition in, I guess, in finance. And I assume people assume it's so black and white, but the more I'm talking to you, it's realizing there's a lot more gray
mm.
zones in kind of financial, both of workers or leadership.
And that's nice that you say it like that. And what comes up in my mind is what I've been listening a lot for myself. And there was a meditation on one of the apps, and that said, you know, finance is just an energy. And I think
Mm,
that's so right. If you look at business, if you look at finance, it's so much. What label do you put on it? What relationship do you have with it? And I think that is all a sense of intuition, but also the patterns that we build ourselves. How much come from your own history, looking at these kind of things,
mm,
and that comes from everywhere. And that's
yeah.
not rational at all, because we can be very logic, but I think the emotions, and especially the unconscious emotions, win always, because that's where our patterns are. That's where our history is. That's that's who we are as a person, and everything we carry with us. And that's
Yeah.
absolutely not the logic how we do things. So
Yeah, yeah.
so
If it were
it's
logical, that would be so much more easier, right? I
no,
think
yeah,
that's why it's
yeah,
so not easy, but also why it's
yeah.
so wonderful and magical because it's not linear. It's not, you
No,
can't expect it. You can't pre-plan everything.
it's not linear at all. And that's if you take that to business, right? I think how we have been raised is that if you set a goal or a plan or a strategy, 3 to 5 years, you know, you define where you want to go to.
Mm,
And I think it's much more the emerging future now. And that's where we got lost sometimes, because we are used to do this linear, right? I'm here now, I want to go there. So if I take my steps, you know, I can do this. But it never have been has been linear, but I think it becomes obvious now, right? We are also in a transformation in a world where we live, like, but it's not
mm,
linear at all.
yeah.
It takes transformational presence. It's, you know, the form follows the energy, and then it's much more like, wait a minute, I've done that once, that with papers on the floor, and when I then try to connect with the universe, and then I was always, okay, I want to go there and I want to go there, and I was like, but I don't need to chase anything. If I just stand on my spot here, the future is coming to me, and I will have my hands full in dealing with that wave that's coming, and with the wave that's coming after that one, and the one that's coming after that one. So if I spend all my time and energy in figuring out where I want to go to, I'm being swarmed by the waves. Let me
Yeah.
prepare for the waves, and let me fall and try and learn how I can ride these waves like a surfer, because I think that's much more important. Than you do that with balance, with also intuition, with following your path that's in you,
Mhm.
and try to survive. Sounds a little bit heavy, right? But that's what we, I think, do every day. And if you try to plan your life, I think life takes over.
Yeah,
Yes, just
yeah. It's
follow life.
what an interesting discussion because for coaching we talk about planning and setting smart goals. And what's the phrase? If you want God to laugh, tell him your plans.
Yeah, yeah,
Right? And that even though we plan, there's still always going to be that variation of the universe. And this, what you mentioned about like kind of planning versus being the present, that reminds me when I was in working in the hospital, this kind of similar idea too. You could spend, I remember being on, early in residency, be on call overnight and you have this list of 30 patients and you're worried, like, what could go wrong? So I'm like, okay, room A, and like thinking all these possibilities of what could happen. And then you realize most nights, the nights was pretty smooth actually.
yeah,
Maybe one person had a hiccup here, maybe two, but I spent all this energy worrying about it and, wasted energy. When I think the balance point is saying, okay, when I need to, I can put my energy to solving problems. I have enough skill set to solve the problems as they come instead of pre planning every problem to solve. Balance that energy between when it's there, then ride that wave
mm,
versus
yeah,
worrying about what's a fourth wave up ahead because by the time it gets to you, the wave dissipated. It could be bigger. It could be, we don't always know. So that balancing planning, but really being flexible and adaptable. And I think being
yeah,
okay that our plans are never going to go exactly how we think they are,
no,
but we should anticipate that and be. Someone said to me, like one of clients or I was a fellow coach, she said she started the day off saying, I wonder what wacky, wonderful thing will happen today.
yeah. That's
Right. Because like you
nice one.
never know what's going to
You
happen
never know.
today. And like almost expecting that and welcoming that and say, yes. And we'll adapt to that because the more we adapt, the better we get to be adaptable.
It's a nice one. The more we adapt, the more we become adaptable. Yeah, it is. It
Yeah.
is like that, right? Anticipating, footloose, yeah. And I think that's why, and that's really the parallel with coaching, because with coaching, to get my PCC, my God, that was really a hard work. And that's why I also ended in the National Board of Health and Wellness Coach, because I needed training, and I saw this training, and I was really like, why do I want this? Because my heart says so. And my head was really like, you're financial. What do you know about health?
Mm,
I don't know, but it's on my path. And I did all kind of things, right? With the connections that I have, and people like reading cards, and read my hands. Do I really need to do this training on health? And it was my path, and it didn't make sense for me at all.
mm,
But I did my training on the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaching. I did it in the Executive College in US, online, in the
mm.
middle of the night, because it was from 10 o'clock no, from 12 o'clock in the evening to 2 o'clock in the morning. So 2 hours, because it's west side, right? I think it's area San
Yeah.
Francisco.
Wow.
My husband really thought I was crazy. I did it for 16 weeks, middle of the night, did the American-based exam, but my heart was in there, right? it's
Mm,
it's to go there and to learn. And if that's, I would never have thought about that, but that's where, if you're in the here and now, and that's what I wanted to say with the parallel in coaching, if you are in the here and now, which sometimes works, sometimes not at all, but then you can handle with what's on your plate now. And then I think about Eckhart Tolle, that if you really ask, what's my problem now, do I have a challenge, 99.9 times percent, I have to say, well, no, I don't have a problem now. But my head wants to create, right? No more drama in my life. I had it's a song also with one of the lyrics.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It kind of
so it's
reminds you of the idea that like anxiety at some point is kind of worrying about things that haven't happened yet. right? And there's this
Yeah.
interesting balance between planning is helpful, but there's a diminishing law of returns, to borrow an econ term,
Yeah. True.
right? Planning definitely has a diminishing law of returns. At some point, you're spending more energy than you're getting back, and how to know where that point is. And I'm hearing a lot of awareness, right? That sometimes we can think about all the things to do. And I've been there too. I'm like, oh my God, so much to do, all these things to do. And I go, wait a second, I have a roof over my head.
Yeah.
I have drinking
Water.
water.
Yeah.
There's
Can
food in the
eat.
fridge.
Mm.
Like, I'm actually okay now. And that can then, being okay can help me address these things I want to work on. And it's a good, and how lucky I am to do these things, you know? I sometimes have a phrase, a first world problem has a first world solution,
Mm.
right? Right? That
Yeah.
kind of putting things in perspective. And Marinda, I wonder if we can, you mentioned that you went from PCC, kind of more traditional, ICF has more leadership kind of coaching roles. And I know there's definitely, for everyone listening, there's overlap. A lot of ICF coaches do well-being, some health and wellness coaches do
Absolutely. Yeah.
leadership. There's a lot more blurring, but if we kind of do very broad brushstrokes historically, that's kind of how it's been. Um, Curious, tell me more about that transition from going, saying what you learned in that and how well-being plays into finance. Because we've talked a bit before about
Mm.
both well-being for financial experts, which I want to talk about, but also finance for well-being people. So
Yeah. Yeah.
curious, tell me when you went to that training, you said you were drawn to this.
Yeah.
What was the thing that really was like, okay, I can really help these populations this way? What are the learnings you took from
Mm.
this extra training or combining everything together?
I think to really start to see that I combine it, it's only since last year somewhere because it
Okay.
has been my journey. How can I, I love finance and I love coaching. And for me, they were completely two separate worlds. That's also what people say around you. Like, if you're a coach, how do you end up there? And I
Mm,
say, you can speak to me from, data analytics with big data to the highest spiritual experience. I'm all. And then it's so I got that training and then health. Yeah, the training wasn't really great until there was one moment we spoke about heart and brains, and I was really like, do I need to remember this? I was really like, no, I'm really in an area that's so out of my comfort zone.
mm,
And then October 23, I decided to get my qualification again on finance. So I did my certified management accounting, also US based exams. I only have US based PCC, CMA, and the national board. So, and then at the moment I passed that one and I got the news that I was certified, which I was very proud on. I think the day after they announced if I take the certified management accounting, it's of the professional body, the Institute for Management Accountants. And then it was announced that they have a partnership with the International Coaching Federation, the ICF.
mm.
And only at that moment was like, and I think I also posted on LinkedIn, wow, these two worlds come together now. It
Yeah.
felt almost like an official, okay, yes, you can bring finance to coaching and coaching to finance. And with yeah, for me, the health and wellness coaching, I focused a lot on mental health. I've been also coaching for modern health, so it
Hmm.
was more the mental part of coaching. But it feels like yes, it's we are in a time of a world where things comes together, and now I get a lot of questions like, but that's interesting that you combine that. Well, I think it's of course my own mindset and it's my own energy that I show now. Yes, it's combined. Before that, I was blocking it myself, and that's why I got these
Mm.
comments like, two worlds, how can that be? So when they started to come together, and I spoke to both of the presidents and the vice presidents, and from IMA, the Institute for Management Accounting, they say we need to bring coaching and coaching leadership. And when I spoke to the president, Magdalena from ICF, she said, we need finance, because we have a lot of coaches who have their own institute, their own company, to understand what finance actually is. And that's where
Mm.
it came together for me. Okay, I can do this. And I think no matter what you do, I think your well-being is the foundation under it. If you have no well-being, if you're not healthy, if you struggle,
Yeah.
then things get even harder. And I believe very, very much. It's not even believing, but your head and your body are one. Like what I just said, my mother passed away when she was 57 with cancer, and I think a lot from that was also the energy around her, inner self. You know, we do a lot to ourselves. So
Yeah.
that for me, that it's quite a long story, but that's where everything comes together.
Yeah, yeah. So much there, Marinda. So there's this she reminds me of a few stories I had with some client work actually around finance. I was working with a client. You mentioned the head and body all the same. I've
Yeah.
definitely said this on a different episode, but I was on a panel one time and they asked me, "Hey, Dr. Salinas, what's the difference between mental health and physical health?" And I said, "Difference? It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, it's all in the same sack of skin. It's all in the same bag. Your
Yeah.
heart's in the same bag that your brain is, that your liver is, and your stomach is. It's all a system, right?"
It's
And
all
I'm
the
glad. I
same.
said, "I'm glad we're talking about this part of the system, but it's all one system."
Yeah.
And so, to your point at the end, they're saying that, your well-being is paramount for anything you want to do, right? I think there's this, at least in the curious about kind of over in Europe, but here there's this culture sometimes, this hustle culture of like,
Mm.
do it no matter what, and almost glorifying, oh, I stayed up all night, I had it harder than you did, and
Yeah.
how stressful this was, and we slept in the office in the chairs, et cetera, right? And almost like a badge of honor how much we are doing to be unhealthy to get
Mm.
this.
True.
And now, I think there are times when that happens. As a, for example, parenting. You mentioned parent. Like sometimes as a parent, you have to do something unhealthy in the short term for your kid. Stay up all night to feed them because they're sick or
Mm.
something, right? I'm not saying in business it doesn't happen. You have also these crunch times, but that should be the exception, not the rule, not the standardization. And there's almost this people. I think used to think, oh well, sign of weakness to take care of yourself. No, no. The better you are as a system, the better your brain works. When you sleep more, and you're eating well, and you're not skipping meals, and you're exercising, your mental acuity is better.
Yeah.
So actually, the way to do better in the boardroom is really, as obvious might sound, take care of yourself first in order to take care of the others. And that's something that I see a lot in well-being, but I think also in finance. Like we want to do all this stuff and realize this has to be step one. Something, frankly, I should also be reminded of sometimes.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely true, and that's also what we spoke about, right? When I was at my time at IKEA, which was really a great time, but I traveled the world, and at that time, you are 30, 32, 35. I really enjoyed it a lot, and I liked the speed, and it also it took me away from the things that I really had to work on because I just, you stepped into the red race from IKEA, which is easy to do. But especially traveling, for me it's a killer, because if you travel from here to China, if you travel from here to Philly, I have done one time. I did a round. I flew from Amsterdam to Shanghai, stayed there for a week, and then I had to continue to Philadelphia. So then I flew from Shanghai to New York. And I still remember that there was, you sit in the plane, it's all economy at IKEA, which is fine. But then on the screen in front of me, there was 888, and it was AM and PM. And I really felt my body checking out, like, whatever, I don't have a clue anymore in which time
Mm,
zone I am. So then you go also back to the bed, because you really have to sense in your body, am I tired or am I not, because your time is completely gone. But I think it's also very unhealthy, all these irregular things and eating and having, it's not possible to have your normal diet, because you need to eat what's there. And I think it's to really take care of yourself when you have these kind of roles. That's so important, which at that time I didn't. But I think nowadays, when you say bring health and wellness to finance or to business, I think that's one big area also. If you are in the board or you are traveling, I think in US people travel also a lot. Of course, the country is much bigger. But to take care of yourself, it's quite a thing,
yeah.
because it's normally lower on priority, because you have to finish this report, or you have to get that presentation done, and you work in the evenings because, hey, there's nothing else to do. You're stuck in a hotel room anyway. Yeah, been
Yeah.
there, done it.
Yeah. The interconnectedness, even that you might talk about mental health too. So talk about finance and health correlation. In the States, one of the biggest predictors of your health actually is
Mm,
your zip code. So
mm,
being very real here in our country, your financial health is very closely tied to can you get traditional healthcare services. If you don't have insurance, it's very hard to go see a provider, a
mm,
fall provider, right? It's a reality. Or the reality is a lot of people are underinsured. You might have insurance, it's more of a stopgap for bankruptcy, maybe, but there's still a 10 grand deductible sometimes,
mm.
right? And so
Wow.
the reality is that, and this reminds me of a client I had, I've referenced before, but she one time we were talking and she started talking about her work or her finance, right? And she was, oh, sorry, Diego, that's not a health and well-being topic. Sorry about that. And I paused her and I was like, listen, if it's going through your brain, if you're thinking about it, it affects your brain. Your brain's where your mental health lives. It's part of it, the whole system.
Yeah. Yeah.
I go, so in that
Absolutely.
case, I can't think of any topic that wouldn't be a health and well-being topic, right? Because in the States, how much people mentioned today before today's episode, some of the comments, like they're saying inevitably stress and financial stress is a very big part of being a human being, the resources you have, right? So either it's something you're worried about or can really directly block access to things, right? So understanding this is not a separate part of your well-being. The reality is it's something that needs to be addressed, and it can be so scary and overwhelming for people. So I'm sure talking to you and saying how these things can be relatable is like must be a sense of relief. There's someone helping me out navigating this important thing that, at least frankly in the U.S., we don't have any finance in school.
No. No.
A hyper capitalistic. I mean, I took an AP econ because I was curious about it. And I
Mm.
really enjoyed it. I'm a big nerd. I love it. It was a required. It wasn't a required course to take economy. I just wanted to take it. So something that so runs our day to day life, right? We're this capitalistic culture, but we have very little education on how to take care of our own finances. A lot of confusion.
Yeah. No. And I say, wow, and then I think about my own country, and I think, yeah, you are not really taught how to deal with cash. I think it's in our culture a little bit more that saving is normal. You don't do, I have had a discussion with a American colleague when I was working at IKEA with the usage of credit cards, which I think in other countries and US is quite normal. In the Netherlands, you save first, you make sure you get the money, which is changing also now, I must say, with the
Mm.
new generation. They're also much more credit cards. But indeed, to really get education, my mom always wrote down everything she had, right? So she had a little money, and then she was in a booklet, and then she was writing down what she bought in the store. We didn't have the cards then, right? Everything was petty
The
cash.
ledger for the checkbook,
Yeah, yeah, the
yeah.
checkbook, and she was always writing it down, and it was always getting like curved. It was never a straight line, but curved. And I knew that. I thought, like, when I get adult and when I get on my own, I do the same thing. I will write it down, but then I thought, but I will make a spreadsheet out of it. So I have my spreadsheet. So I know every day, I know exactly, I do my admin and I know what do I have on my bank account, what do I need to pay, and what do I have, and is it plus or
Mm.
minus. But I learned it from her actually, and she was not teaching it me, but I was more like, wow, that's interesting. You write down everything that you need to pay still. Yeah, so I think it's understanding, it's teacher, and I think there's a lot with systemic patterns. The area where I live now is seen more historically as more poor area, which I think is really interesting because then it's generation to generation to generation, and to step out of that pattern, then you get, and for coaching, it's really interesting, right? So we sabotage ourselves also, because if we maybe can earn more money, something like that, you might be unconsciously disloyal to your system, to your
Mm.
pre-generations. And I think that's so highly interested, like, and I've had those things myself, right? Okay,
Oh.
so with a mother who didn't have that much money, and then I could earn more, then you are disloyal to your system. So if you are born in a
Yeah.
healthy, rich environment, it's also, not to talk about money to disloyal, and the other way around. If you're more in an area where systemically seen everything is more poor, you're disloyal to your system by earning money. So there is
Oh.
so much around it. There's so much, money makes the world, how you call it, makes the world turn,
Go
right?
go around. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's such a basic thing. It's here with us for I mean, accounting is 600 years old. So money is maybe even older. So it's so in our genes.
Yeah.
It's not rational at all. It's what we carry with us from our generations behind, and it's what we need to take out of it and how
Miranda,
we carry it forward.
that really opened my eyes up. The word disloyal, right? So almost how finance is such a big part of our identity,
Yeah, it
right?
is.
I kind of really didn't sound obvious to me now, but I really didn't think about how much, yeah, our socioeconomic status, who we hang out with, and even guilt, right? So if you make more and you don't want to
Yeah,
be above you, or the opposite around, there's so much of our identity tied into it, and that maybe things we do or don't do are based off like how finance comes into how we show up, or people. Yeah, that's mean, talk about well-being. Your identity is who you are, right? And how
Yeah.
much of your what you do is based off of being in the group or not being in the group, and how closely. And
Mm.
here's definitely a taboo topic to talk about, but other cultures I know in South America, people are a little more open about discussing some of those things, right? So how much of a cultural consideration as well, but even the hyper regional consideration, right? In the same country, different regions
Yeah.
will have different ways of how to and how this affects them. How
Yeah.
finance is part of identity. That's really
Yeah.
important, actually. Wow. Yeah. And Marinda, I'm curious what you think of are like common thing. Let's say when you're working with a client who's you're helping financially coach, right? So,
Hmm.
as a general coach, I've had clients sometimes ask me things. As listen, I'm not a financial advisor. I can't give you advice. If you want to work on your plan, I can help you follow your budget from a stepwise, but I'm not. I can't give you advice. What do you think are kind of common things? When maybe mindset shifts you see your clients need to change, like when they're saying, "Hey, I'm coming from financial coaching." What are common questions or I don't want to say pitfalls, maybe things that they make a big difference once they kind of internalize and understand them.
Yeah, most of it is what we discussed now. So you can, and then we come back to the rational thing. Yes, we can work together on okay, what is finance and how how you need to approach it when doing your own business. I mean, soon I will give an English course on the basic of accounting, but that's really the technological side. I never use that in coaching because it has nothing to do with coaching.
Mm,
If you start to coach on financial well-being, it is your relationship with financial well-being, with finance, with money. What is your relationship? So it's really 9 out of 10 times it's the energy that you have to it. What's your mindset? Do you allow yourself to earn money? And it's not only about earning money, right? Because it's also the wealth that you have inside. So it's mostly that to make you aware of what is my relationship with it. What's my
mm,
relationship? How do I look at it? And what's in my, what's maybe from my history? What's there? To who? I mean, I'd say it, but it's a question I ask quite often. Who are you disloyal to when you will choose this one? And that so it's almost always on energy, your connection to what labels do you give it? Sometimes we give a label to something small, and it's a label like it can only cost 2 euros, for example. Doesn't it should not cost too much. And a big car, we give it a label, oh, that can be 30 grand. That's no problem.
mm,
So it's also how do we label it? What do we allow ourselves? And also to
yeah.
make aware the choices. If you really have a choice, that I have a lot in the coaching practice. I can do this job or that job that earns a lot of money, but I like that one more. What choice do you make? And then you come back again. Is it a rational choice? Do you choose the money or do you follow your heart and maybe it's less money?
Yeah.
And again, it's your inner state. It's again going inside. What's more important for you? Because the outside world, they can say whatever you want, but it's not linear. It's not logic.
Yeah.
So the only answer is in you. So that's mostly what I coach, the connection to it. Financial well-being, it's the energy. And if you can be, you know, have no money and still be so happy and have such a good energy, and you can have billions of money and be completely empty inside.
So
So
well
it's
put.
it's not yeah it's not the amount that you have.
Yeah. This reminds me of kind of almost the idea. I heard this is something my sister's friend who was an accountant, we had this idea and we talk about living life as an accountant versus an economist. Right? Then an accountant will say what makes the most money. That's the answer. The most money, the least whatever, the least
Yeah.
spent. The bigger number is the answer, right? But I feel like as an economist, is what brings you the most value, right? So you're saying, okay, an accountant would say, get the job that makes the most income, has the most benefits. That's the best one. If you're looking at just the numbers, right? But we're not numbers. We're based off
Mm,
what those numbers mean to us, right? So it's that balance point, leaving traditional medicine was leaving a lot of income on the table. And the value of having this freedom or doing something else was valuable in a different way. It's not on a ledger, on a credit or
mm,
debit ledger. And so
yeah.
really making sure that we, like you mentioned, our mindset, what we know is important, clarifying our values, right, for our coaches out there, right? Like
Yeah.
real deep value clarification to understand how we live in line with those values, those choices we make. Because this term value conflict, for coaches and non-coaches was an interesting word when I first learned about this. Because in my mind, I hear value conflict, I think good versus bad.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. But most
yeah,
things that we work on with our clients and coaching is actually value conflict of two really good things. So actually, it's funny, Marinda, the example I often give to clients is financial. I say, many people have a value of putting food on the table for the family, right? I want to be provided the breadwinner, right? There's also the value of being at the table and breaking bread with them and having
yeah.
a meal together.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes, depending on what's going on, they might be in conflict. Maybe you're early in your
Mm,
career, you're doing a double shift to make ends meet. You may not make it for dinner with your family while they're having dinner, and you're trying to figure out that balance point here. So it's not that either good or bad, they're both good things. It's how do you find that balance that resonates with
yeah,
you? And sometimes you may feel, oh, I wish I could do 100, 100. I wish I could do both. There are times we may not always be able to. How do we do those times make sure we're still moving forward, honoring ourselves, and getting close to that balance point that we want? That really ultimately defines as only we know that balance point because only we know our values. If it's competition or collaboration, legacy versus giving, right? It really has to come down to that awareness. It's the answer ultimately comes within, not from the external accountant.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's nice what
Yeah.
you said, and comes also back to the values. Absolutely, and we know that, right, from a value hierarchy. If there are two values which are so close to each other, wow, what's that 1% difference? And then
Yeah.
even still, because then it could also be the rational thing again, like, yeah, this one is 1% higher, but if you
Yeah.
then choose that one, how is the feeling then? So it's so nice to bring something tangible like that, something logical and rational and linear like money,
Mm.
bring it back to the energy, to who you are as a person, to your values, to your history, to your patterns, to your, you know,
Yeah.
everything. That's and then money becomes an energy.
Yeah. And, I think, curious your thoughts on this, Marinda. I talked to a lot of coaches and people starting their careers up. And when I was starting my coaching career too, interesting mindset and kind of your relationship with money, something you mentioned
Mm,
earlier, right? So this was me, and I know I speak for many coaches. When I was in medicine, I was involved in 5 international mission trips abroad, right? Nonprofits, giving it away, raising money, right? And then you started coaching, you realize, well, not everyone can afford this. And you see people in need, right? I've done many, and I still do pro bono and sliding scale and donation based. But early on, one of my mentors told me something that stuck with me. She said, Diego, if you keep on only giving away your coaching, you're going to have a different way to put food on your table or
yeah,
pay your rent, right? So
true.
then coaching can only become your hobby. If it's your hobby, you can only do it Sunday afternoons or on the
Yeah,
weekends, right? So if you want to, in your lifetime, help more people, coach more people, support more people, you have to find a way to make it sustainable for yourself. And that's something as a lot of coaches are givers.
yeah,
We will give a little, we have so much compassion for others and a relatively less compassion for ourselves. So it was that mindset shift of saying, you know what? Because my identity was, yeah, I'm a donation based person. I've run a nonprofit. I don't need the money. I just keep wanting equality. Yeah, but if I do this to so much, I can't be giving the way I want to. And then actually, it's not selfish to want to earn if it allows me to do that gift that I want to give. That's something that I've encountered for sure. I've seen a lot of coaches starting off as this mindset that it is not selfish to pay yourself first and then to
mm,
then donate when you can because you do have to take care of yourself at the end of the day. What are your
yeah,
thoughts on that, Miranda?
absolutely.
Do you see some of that with the people you work with?
Yeah, and I've also been there myself.
Mm,
I think I've tried several times to do only coaching and to earn a living with it. Disconnect or set aside the money. I just don't like to do one thing. So I like to do, keep the balls in the air. So yes, I'm in finance, but next to it, I do coaching and I'm doing, all kind of things. But it's because what you said also is it's you can if you get them people who really pay you well for coaching because you support, you help them in business, for example, then you can
mhm.
also have the space to say it sometimes to others. I can do it for a little bit less. I don't believe in free coaching because you bring so much value, and I've had people around me who say things that you give away is not appreciated that much.
Mhm.
So you can always see if really somebody is, in very difficult phases. I mean, €2, $2 is also something.
Yeah.
But to give away coaching means, and what helped me a lot in that mindset, I did last year. I did the Marshall Goldsmith uh, training, executive coaching, and how they speak about coaching. That's business.
Mm,
What
the
they charge,
ROI.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
So and that helped me a lot to look different, to perceive coaching myself also from a different perspective. Like, yeah, but if it's business, right? And yes, you do that in corporate, and yes, you do that with leaders who can afford it. But still, what you bring, especially with the stakeholder-centered coaching, is leadership. Is listen to others and say thank you when you get suggestions and all these kind of things, which is so valuable as a human also, that they have brought that so much. In the beginning, I was really like, oh, they only speak about money. But when you really start to listen, when I was doing the training, I was like, there's so much underneath that one. So that helped me also a lot in my mindset. No, I will not charge what they charge, because that's not who I am as a person. But yes, I charge for my coaching because you really
Yeah.
get something out of it. And I
Yeah.
think that's also the growth of coaching, right? It's not it. Yes, you can do it as a hobby, but if you really want to be serious, take yourself serious. You also don't take a job somewhere and say, don't pay me. I don't need it,
Yeah. Yeah. Someone, we had a guest before who said, if you treat coaching as a hobby, it's only going to be your hobby.
Yeah,
You have to put in hours to build
yeah,
it, to start it up, and it's not going to be. And at first, it's most outreach and getting the word out there, and then with time, that flywheel starts turning. There's more. You have more established word of mouth referrals. But if you treat it as a hobby, it's only going to be
yeah,
your hobby. And the point you mentioned about value and free coaching and or that how that works. I tell a lot of coaches and clients too that putting something down is the first behavior that they've actually made, right? The science shows that people who prepay, the reason why a lot of coaches is prepaid is because you've actually committed, right? Some coaches say, well, I don't want
yeah,
to charge everyone ahead of time. I go, okay, you can do sliding scale, you can do kind of space it out. But this is the first behavior show to be committed.
yeah,
And so that in itself was about coaching, creating new behaviors. And for those who are kind of in the early coaching part of their careers, this is something you'll see happen a lot. First session, everyone's really excited. Well, maybe a little confused too, but kind of excited. Like, okay, start seeing, like, wait, I can maybe start seeing. Second session, okay, yeah, this is gonna be cool. My life's gonna be better. I'm gonna get better. The reality is, because of neuroscience and physics and everything, change is hard and takes time and a lot
mm,
of things to happen.
yeah,
So sessions 4, 5, 6, when the kid gets sick or the thing comes up or someone's on vacation and whatever holidays happen, etc., and your plan deviates, it's like, well, I don't know if I can do this, right? Think about resolutions. It's the reason why most of them after January trail off. About 3, 4 weeks, life gets in the way, and that initial excitement and energy there's that those things go against each other. If
yeah,
someone
true,
commits to 10 sessions, to 3 months, 6 months, that's where the change happens because they learn how to adapt, like I said earlier, to those adaptations. And that's the real trick to get back on the horse, to
yeah,
retry, even if you see your old patterns. Oh, I'm going through myself. I'm not the most organized. I'm working. I get really frustrated with myself. Oh man, I miss. Okay, Diego, retry today. It's the retrying that makes a change, not
yeah,
the stepping back. So,
yeah,
um, and I'll round off this by saying you can be creative in what your clients give you. I've done,
yeah,
for example, when I was on mission trips in rural Dominican Republic, out in the kind of like farms. We gave a lady some medication or some. She needed an injection that she had brought. She didn't know how to use it, so we helped her out. She came back and brought us a little delicious coconut cake she had made.
yeah,
Right. So I've done some work with migrant communities, and I say, you choose what it is that you bring to the session, and it's
yeah,
maybe you give $1 or you donate $1 to your charity that you enjoy. You bring me a cookie, even if I don't eat it. It's like you have to do you have some behavior that you put skin in, so you take it seriously, and so that's where you do the work. And so I think some of those coaches say, well, we don't want to lower barriers, but actually having someone commit actually strengthens their that bond
yeah,
and going through the hard times.
yeah. It's so much true what you say, because
Yeah.
coaching is about commitment, right? It's taking the journey, and to do the work yourself, you need to have the commitment for it. I mean, and nowadays, where do you get it? Somebody's just listening to you and accept
Mm.
you with everything that you are, with the. doesn't happen
Yeah.
that much anymore. We are trained for it, and it's so hard and it's so difficult to do, but it's also so fun to be connected to people like that. And what you
Yeah.
say, you can balance it, and one person can afford it, so you can then give a little bit lower price, or indeed let them give them what they think it's value.
Yeah.
But I think it's also the development of the profession. We will get more rational, I would say, on this because we need
Yeah.
to. Yeah, it is.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
Rational. Yeah.
that comes again.
Yeah, yeah, because it's true. It's like, and this is where, you know, I was really ignorant to what coaching was till about an hour into my coach training. When I saw an example of it in real life, I was like, oh, this is not what this is way more deep than I thought it was, right? So as a profession develops and we provide that good kind of transformations, then that word will spread. And you mentioned about paying. There's a reason on Vibe we have gift cards. One of my first clients was
Mm,
someone bought a package for their family friend who was
wow.
going through a hard time, was a student, maybe couldn't afford it. 7 years later, we still work together. Now he can afford it. Right. And he's still, now not every day, but once a year he'll buy a package from me. Right. And so you help someone out, you don't know how they're going to help their community out too. And for everyone listening, a great strategy, if you're trying to get employees coached, coach the leader,
Yeah.
coach the CEO, because then again on paper, well, reflecting, listening, hire yourself. Okay, I don't
Hmm.
know, sounds great. You experienced it and then go, oh my goodness, yeah, yeah, this would be great for my employees. And then the rational part, Marinda, is why does ICF has a lot of research. The return on investment is
Yeah,
really great, actually, right? 'Cause
it's
if you
really
can
good.
decrease employee turnover, and correct me if I'm wrong here, because I read something when I took an MBA. I still do one more project left, but otherwise I finished it. It said that employee turnover costs between two thirds to two times someone's annual salary in terms of lost
Mm,
productivity, wages. So the rational part is saying, wait, this is prevention. If I can have my employees reduce that turnover, they're happier, which makes them better workers, which makes the whole system it's better actually, right? So
yeah,
there is this
true.
rational part of actually listening to the emotional part makes sense logically.
Absolutely. And that is what I so much like about the Marshall Goldsmith stakeholder-centered coaching. It's the question like, okay, if you want to improve your leadership in this case, what's it worth to you? How much is it worth you for you to really be the leader that you want to be?
Mm.
And we do a cost benefit analysis on that. And what does it cost you if you don't change?
The opportunity
If you
costs, right?
yeah,
That
if you
people don't think about
stay
that all
if
the
you
time. Yeah.
stay how you are.
Mhm.
And the great thing there is, which I also would really like to introduce in my own coaching. Okay, if I can start measuring it and I start to measure the development, if there's no development, it's a no growth, no pay.
Mm.
Because then, and that I really like, yes, it's because especially in leaders, they charge a lot of money because it's a high value. What you say, I mean, if they don't make it, it costs 2-3 times their annual salary, which is really high salaries. But if I'm as a coach and I don't, I'm in it as well together with commitment that if there's no growth because you measure the growth,
Mhm.
then you don't need to pay. So I need to make sure I do my job correctly, but I am also very selective on the people I work with
Mhm.
because I want those clients and I work with those clients who are highly committed to do this. Otherwise, I do not get paid. So, and
Right.
there, that's also a way to do things that with, and that's what I meant before. That also opened my eyes. Like, there's so many ways how you can do this, and measuring growth, and they then measure it with the stakeholders around you, but you can also measure it yourself with some people around you because they behavioral change. You can change, but if your environment doesn't know, they will keep on looking at you the way you were. So yes, you change your own behavior, but you need to bring the people around you with that change. Otherwise,
Yeah.
they don't change with you. So that
Yeah.
and that yeah, I thought like this is so well thought. And then you balance things again because then it's they pay what they think it's worth it. If they don't grow, for whatever reason, and it doesn't happen that much because you select the people who are highly committed, then
Yeah.
you don't need to pay me as a coach because then I probably also didn't do a good job. And for
Mm.
me, that brings things in balance again. It's
Yeah.
it's balance, it's accounting again.
Marinda, I think it points out to something that I've talked to people about that I think what makes coaching, well, I'm so excited about the coaching profession, besides the transformational change, is the creativity in the space of how to apply these things, right? So that idea of saying, hey, if you don't make change, I don't, that's a great thing for you. Not all coaches are going to do that for different reasons. Depends on the population you
Hmm.
work with. Maybe you don't have to really select someone as that kind of level of commitment. And I tell my clients, listen, you're doing the work, not me. So when they go, thank you so much, Diego. I go, I didn't do the running this week. I didn't call my mom. I didn't do my meditation. That's you did the work, right?
Hmm.
My job is to help you do the work, but I can't do the work. I can't grow personally for you. It's not how. That's
No.
not how it works, right? But my point is, there's so many creative ways that coaches have to help their clients. So like your version is something I hadn't heard of before. I do time-based coaching. I don't coach by session. I coach by I have
Mm.
hours. I have these blocks of times. Use how much really you want in it based off your package, right? I know coaches who do their culinary coaches and they cook with their clients, right? And or they go on nature walks with their clients,
Yeah.
right? So I'm really, as we're kind of wrapping up here, it's really wonderful to have, a coach like you on Vibely because not only the diversity of topics covered, right? No matter where you are, we can find that right person, but also what an interesting way of working. You find that right fit, the one that, I do very long sessions. Some people don't like that. Great. They're not the right client for me. I want clients who can commit to minimum an hour, if not longer. I
Mm.
know coaches do 15-minute max. Amazing.
Yeah.
If we just let the creativity flourish, that's where new solutions come, which is what business is about, creating new solutions, but also for personal development, right? We're going to better serve our clients when we're authentic and we're passionate and have our background. That therapeutic alliance is based off of the coach's authenticity and passions. So my whole goal is to have coaches do the work that they dream about doing. If you do financial coaching, you're going to be happier if you're doing, let's say, weight loss coaching, for example, right? Not that they can't be intertwined, but we have our different unique passions. So
Yeah.
really, that goal is to help people connect to find that right support, that right person for their version of their journey, and use that creativity and knowledge to create new systems that haven't been developed yet. That's what I'm really, really passionate about.
Wow. Yeah, and reaching that means we have health and wellness ourselves, and therefore we can coach others again to also find their inner self and what makes them happy. Which I
Yeah,
think if we can achieve that, then health
yeah.
and wellness will come.
It gave me goosebumps, right? Because like
Yeah.
the reality is like, yeah, it's and it's something lesson I learn every day. I can always do more. Always, but you have to stop and when are you going to fill up your own cup? The whole phrase, you can't give from an empty cup, right? And also, as we round out, saying we should always be working on ourselves and have compassion for ourselves, like we have for our clients. That
Mm.
we don't have to be influencers or models or perfect beings to really help someone out. It's not about that. If you are also struggling, you realize how hard change is, so you can be more compassionate with your clients and just like your clients, restart. It's not, like leadership, we're really partnering with your clients. We're
Mm.
both going on these parallel journeys. We understand it in a different way. We're helping them apply it to their own personal life, just as we're applying it to our own personal life. Application is going to be unique because we're each unique beings, unique systems. But what's important is to take care of our system first. And that's something that to me never goes it's never extra to say that because I need that constant reminder. I'm not gonna lie to you.
We're all like humans, right?
Yeah, we're all humans in the day, right? Exactly. We all have, even we know how change happens, doesn't mean we don't struggle with it, right? But that awareness helps us get started or restart again. So, Marindo, I know we're almost at the top of the hour, finishing off here. Any kind of last parting words for either any coaches or clients? Anything else you want to kind of leave with in terms of any advice or perspectives people to think about?
Well, um, yeah, I think it's just what you said. Do the things that you love and find yourself. I think that is actually the goal of life for me, to discover myself, to understand myself as far as I can understand myself, because sometimes I'm still surprised. But
Yeah.
to have to have fun with yourself also, and just to yeah, I think if you know yourself from inside and discover it still every day, you also show that to others, and you allow others also to find, how you say that, to find themselves also.
Mm,
So it's
yeah.
I don't have advices because I don't like advices, but it's more have fun. Enjoy
Enjoy the
yourself.
process. Enjoy riding
Yeah,
the
enjoy the
waves. Enjoy
process.
the waves,
And
ups and the downs. It's
you
all
know,
part
it's
of it,
yin
but
yang. Yeah, it's yin yang. You know, we need to have bad times, otherwise we don't enjoy the good times. If it's only good times, it's boring,
hmm
right?
yep,
That's
exactly.
we
Life
need
is
it.
all of it.
That's
It's
yeah, that's life.
life is so beautiful and can be so hard too. It's all of it. It's not one or the
It's part
other,
of
and we
it.
have to
Yeah.
really embrace that. And sometimes some days can have beauty and hardship in the same day. That's something
Yes.
I've been realizing.
Absolutely.
It's like not all one great day or awesome day. It's those waves, right?
And
So
that's what life is.
yeah, Marinda, thank you so much for being our guest today. Really enjoy the conversation as usual. Honored to have you on our platform, kind of providing this different ways of service. And for anyone listening who is a new coach or getting started, we have a special promo code for our listeners. If you type in Salinas20, which is my last name, Salinas, number 2020, you get an extra 20% off the first 3 months of service to help you in your career, to help others. We're here to support and serve so the world will be a better place. So, Miranda, thank you so much for brightening my day up. I definitely have a lot I'm thinking about for this conversation. I'm so glad we're connected in so many ways, digitally, metaphysically, all those things. And to all our listeners, really big appreciation. We are going to probably make an announcement, but we'll have a special podcast episode next week. We usually do every other week, but we're going to do a special episode next week because we're involved in a nonprofit giving back kind of charity donation. So we want to spread the word to help those affected by the LA wildfires. So stay
Oh,
tuned for that announcement. And looking forward to see everyone there. Marinda, thank you again so much, and hopefully talk to
thank
you
you.
soon. Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
very much, Diego.